This is the glacier. There actually used to be a flow stone that came from all the way up there to down here, but people not knowing back then that this would kill the rocks would come in and pick pieces off of it and take it home as a souvenir. They didn't know back then that when you touch the rock, it kills it and it stops growing. Up here you also see soda straw formations. Now how many of you guys have been to Mount Rushmore? Well, here in Mark Twain Cave we have our own Mount Rushmore. Over here we have Abe Lincoln. Here's Injun Joe, and above him is your favorite cartoon personality, Bart Simpson. Back here we also have Yogi Bear. This is the Cascades. The Cascades include Flowstone, Runestone, and Travertine dams. Can anyone tell me what this rock would be called? It was actually a stalactite, but now it's a stalagmite, but not really. We blasted out that 1979 entrance that we came in today, and that rock fell. We didn't want to get rid of it because it was so pretty, so we placed it that way and left it there. And it's actually what you would call a stalagmite, but it's not actually a stalagmite, it's just a geologically confused rock. This is Aladdin's palace. This is the only place in the cave that Mark Twain actually named himself. He named it Aladdin's palace because he said this shape right here reminded him of the onion-shaped domes in India, and that the water reminded him of a reflecting pool. Back there we have our pet, Oscar, the seal. He is made of white cave onyx and grows about an inch every 100 years. Calcium, calcite, onyx, magnesium, and gypsum. As you come around this corner, you'll see the John East entrance, and I'll talk about that more when you can see it a little better. Of our cave. He gave cave tours for 10 cents. If it was a good day out, you usually wouldn't get a very long tour. He'd bring you into the cave, smell the dirt, and say that there was a bear in the cave and he couldn't give you a tour that day. If it was a really bad day out, you could get up to 5-hour-long tours. great-grandfather. She got married in this spot in his honor. Our latest marriage has been by our own tour guide, Patty, and her husband, John. If you were to ask her how our marriage started off, she'd tell you it started off a little rocky, but now it's rock solid. Back here is the Discovery entrance, that I didn't get to show you today because we came in the inclement weather tunnel. It's also called the entrance shaped like an A that Mark Twain makes reference to in his books. Now I'm going to go on with our story of Tom and Becky. Tom and Becky finally got out of the cave. They were very sick and very tired. They were told to stay in bed for a few weeks, but Tom got out of bed a few days earlier than Becky because he just couldn't stand it anymore. He went to go see Becky, but on his way there he ran into Judge Thatcher. Judge Thatcher thought that he'd play a joke on Tom, and he said, "Hey Tom, you want to go play in the cave?" Of course, Tom said, "Yeah, let's go." And that was not the answer Judge Thatcher was expecting. So he said, "No, Tom, there will be no more little boys and girls playing in the cave. No more little boys and girls getting lost." He immediately came and boarded the cave up. Now, Injun Joe, as you remember, was in the cave. Now, Tom forgot about that when he was in town, and he was just focused on getting better and seeing Becky, so he completely forgot about Injun Joe. Until one day he remembered he'd seen him in the cave. He went up to Judge Thatcher and said, "Well, have you found Injun Joe?" And Judge Thatcher said, "Well, no, Tom, we think he left town." And Tom said, "No, I saw him in the cave." So immediately Judge Thatcher came, unboarded the cave, and had a search party to come in and look for Injun Joe. But he didn't have to go very far. Injun Joe's body was on these two rocks right here. On one side of him was a broken knife, and on the other side there were bats' wings from where he'd gotten hungry. Now, how many of you actually believe that story? Okay, good. Mark Twain, or Samuel Clemens, was a fictional writer. But we do like to believe that he wrote after his own childhood adventures, and the people in his stories were written after his own friends. We'd like to believe that Tom's story was actually Samuel Clemens himself. Huck Finn was his best friend, Tom Blankenship, that Becky Thatcher was his childhood sweetheart, Laura Hawkins, and that Injun Joe was after a man named Joe Douglas. The only difference between Injun Joe and Joe Douglas was that Joe Douglas was a very nice man who would never do anything wrong to anyone. Joe Douglas, his mom was a runaway slave, and his father was an Osage Indian. He was scalped as a child and left to die, but the Douglas family took him in. He had to wear a red horsehair wig for the rest of his life. When he was younger, he got smallpox and had indentions in his face from that, so you can think he's not the most attractive man. As one day, Samuel Clemens was at a book signing, and Joe Douglas decided to go in and ask him why he wrote so bad about him. Joe Douglas went up to Samuel Clemens and said, "Well, Sam, what made you write so bad about me?" Samuel Clemens took one look at Joe Douglas and said, "Well, Joe, you're just the ugliest man I ever saw." Joe Douglas said, "I'll get back at you, Samuel Clemens." And he said, "Well, how are you going to do that?" And he said, "I'm going to outlive you." And he did. Joe Douglas lived to be 102 years old. He still didn't die of natural causes. He died from food poisoning from eating a bad batch of his favorite food, pickled pig's feet. I didn't know there was such thing as a bad batch. Mark Twain died at the age of 75. He was born on the year of Halley's Comet and died on the year of Halley's Comet. Now, this is the real end of your tour of Mark Twain Cave. If you had a good tour, my name is Toby. If you had a bad tour, my name is Stephanie.